Monster battles are one of the primary reasons why people go to watch giant monster movies, as it is usually the big moment within these films that the average moviegoer remembers the most. But we kaiju fans have seen multiple monster battles throughout different forms of media, and the question dawns, which one is the best? My name is Mr. DGK, and today's video will be the top 5 monster battles in kaiju media. I cannot stress this enough, as these are my personal opinions, but if you have your list of your favourite monster battles throughout kaiju media, please leave them in the comments below. Before we start, I would like to thank TyrantLizardDork for taking time out of her day to help edit this video, and the great Irene Roxanne for creating the phenomenal thumbnail that would have drawn you to the video. Please give them the love they deserve for helping me out with this video. Other than that, let's begin with the first on my list. Number 5. Godzilla and other kaijus vs King Ghidorah from Destroy All Monsters. Arguably one of the most recognizable fights in the Showa era of the Godzilla series. During the final act of Destroy All Monsters, after the kaijus are free from alien control, they gather on Monster Island to fight King Ghidorah. An unfair fight for Ghidorah from the get-go, as it's a 7 vs 1. Throughout the fight, it feels like classic Showa era Godzilla fights with people in rubber monster suits just hitting each other until Mothra and Kumonga spray Ghidorah with their silken webs. Angus gets a good hold of Ghidorah's neck and draws blood from him. Ghidorah then returns the favour by flying up with Angus still holding onto the alien's neck before Ghidorah bites down on him and causes Angus to fall and Ghidorah to stand on top of him as a sign of victory. Ghidorah was then promptly ganged up on by the others, with Gorosaurus performing his signature kangaroo kick and Angus going back to bite one of the heads as Ghidorah strangles and stomps on the other, with Minya performing a final blow by firing an energy ring and killing the middle head. For me, it's an enjoyable, violent fight in the early days of the Godzilla franchise, and one that I think deserves to be on my list. Number 4. Godzilla vs Angus, King Cesar, and Rodan from Godzilla Final Wars. There are so many monster battles that happen within Final Wars, but one that stands out to me that isn't Godzilla and Mothra versus Kaiser Ghidorah and upgraded Gargan happens to be Godzilla fighting his former allies. This fight is incredibly enjoyable to watch from my point of view, as we see Godzilla take on the three of them with no difficulty at all, until Rodan and Angus get the better of him. However, they are quickly taken care of because of Godzilla's quick thinking. King Cesar shows off his athletic and soccer skills by kicking Angus towards Godzilla in a ball form, but ends up taking Rodan out as Godzilla then quickly deals with Angus and King Cesar in just a few moments. The choreography in this battle is pretty fun to watch, as Godzilla shows his former allies who the real king of the monsters is. I like to imagine that the reason Godzilla spared them is that they were all once friends before the alien mind control happened, and he wanted them to come back to his senses, unlike the other kaiju who got taken out and died within seconds of encountering Godzilla. Number 3. Battle in Boston from Godzilla 2 King of the Monsters. This monster battle is one of the most recognizable fights in the entirety of the Monsterverse, as it is where the third act of King of the Monsters takes place, where Godzilla comes back to take on Ghidorah and reclaim the title of King of the Monsters. As this battle commences, Ghidorah is struck by a giant beam of atomic breath as Godzilla makes his entrance, with the military assisting him from behind to take on the false king. The battle properly begins as Godzilla and Ghidorah charge towards each other, causing a massive shockwave to happen in the middle of Boston. Both monsters throw attacks at each other, as Mothra then comes in to help Godzilla and trap Ghidorah against the building where Godzilla charges into him. But because of Ghidorah's quick thinking, the fight becomes even again as he calls for the assistance of Rodan to take care of Mothra. The fight goes in Ghidorah's favour as he charges up using an electrical grid and takes the Big G off guard. tiring him out and burning his skin. Rodan and Mothra injure each other as Gadora coils around Godzilla, taking him far up into the air and dropping him, causing him to heat up before impact, and after landing, causing some of his energy to go out. Mothra sacrifices herself to save Godzilla as Gadora fires his beam at her, killing her. Gadora then focuses back on Godzilla and drains his energy. To me, it's an amazing battle between the foremost iconic Toho monsters that feels like such a massive love letter to the fans. And I assume we all know what happens shortly after this fight, with Godzilla going thermonuclear and claiming the title of King of the Monsters. No doubt that it belongs on my list. Number 2. Otachi vs Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim. To change things up from monster vs monster fights, how about monster vs human / giant robot fights from one of my favorite Hollywood monster movies of all time? Whenever I think about Pacific Rim, the Otachi fight is the one that always comes to my mind first. This fight is arguably one of the best in Pacific Rim as a fan favorite alien kaiju, who happens to be my favorite alien kaiju, takes on everyone's favorite giant mech in the middle of Hong Kong on a stormy night. The way this fight opens is just simply incredible, to say the least, as Gypsy Danger shows up dragging a large cargo ship behind her and using it as a bat and smacking Otachi around with it multiple times. I mean, what a great way to open a fight. Shortly after, there's Otachi showing off her strength by pushing Gypsy Danger through a few buildings, the freezing and the disintegration of Otachi's claw tail, the hide-and-seek game in the city until the game ends with Otachi bursting through a building and pinning Gypsy down. The destruction and how hard the punches feel are just amazing to watch because of the great use of CGI and designs, and the way the choreography is. It's simply incredible, to say the least. There's just so much I want to talk about regarding this fight and why I find it such a joy to watch, especially when Otachi loses her acid pouch and doesn't play around anymore. She digs her claws into the back of Gypsy Danger before revealing her wings to our two protagonists and the audience, and she then flies off into space, damaging Gypsy on the way by bumping the Jaeger into a few skyscrapers. The music adds to the stakes of the situation as Riley and Marco begin to lose oxygen within the Jaeger, until Marco activates the chainsword and slices Otachi in half. Easily one of the best fights in kaiju media, and a worthy recipient of being in second place on my list. Before we get to our number 1 position, here is an honorable mention that I feel like should get some recognition and appreciation, with that monster battle being Zilla Jr. versus the C-Rex from Godzilla the series. This fight is essentially the catalyst for what happens later on in the show, with Godzilla and the team discovering a new monster and taking it down. I personally feel like this scene should be noticed because of how Zilla Jr. shows off his intelligence to counter the mutant monsters, with the C-Rex being the first monster to die because of Zilla Jr. and his brain. What I like about this battle, that I feel like others would also like about it, is when Zilla Jr. returns to save the human characters from the mutant menace, and then causing the C-Rex to fall off the cliff to its death and getting crushed by a bunch of falling rocks. It really shows off the intelligence of Zilla Jr. and why he's technically a fan favorite kaiju. Not as good as the other monster battles, but personally I feel like it deserves recognition for what it shows off. And finally, My number one monster battle in all of kaiju media. Godzilla vs. Kaiju from Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. This essentially deserves to be my number one spot because it's an incredible and fun battle in the Millennium era of the Godzilla franchise. A battle between Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. A battle between the new Godzilla versus the old Godzilla. The start of this battle has Godzilla preparing to kill a nurse and a patient as he charges up his atomic breath before he goes flying because of Kaiju charging into him in the nick of time. The proper battle actually begins as Kaiju begins firing projectiles towards Godzilla from afar until the two charge towards each other. Kaiju fires more projectiles and propels himself backwards before firing his Type 99 double maser cannon at Godzilla, where Godzilla then returns the favor by firing his atomic breath. The two continue brawling throughout the battle, with Godzilla almost winning by sending Kaiju straight through a building and pinning him down, and then charging up his atomic breath. However, with the help of the White Herons, they distract Godzilla long enough as Kaiju sends his back unit at Godzilla and allows Kaiju to get some distance. Kaiju uses his maser blade, which goes straight through Godzilla's arm and electrocutes him until Godzilla deals with it through the use of his atomic breath. The two stare each other down and charge. Godzilla almost gets Kaiju again with his atomic breath, but thankfully Kaiju dodges it. The hand-to-hand combat in this battle is one of the best parts, where Kaiju gives Godzilla a really tough time. The most recognizable part of this battle is when Kaiju grabs Godzilla by the tail and spins him around and around before throwing him. Kaiju uses his absolute zero 2 times but fails the first because of Godzilla's cunning, which causes Kaiju to freeze several buildings and leaving Kaiju powerless against Godzilla. After getting help from the human characters, especially Akane, Kaiju gives Godzilla one final fight as the two hold on to Godzilla and fly to the ocean, where the final use of the absolute cannon is used. Godzilla survives with a massive wound in his chest and leaves as Kaiju resurfaces in the background as they prepare for their next battle in Tokyo SOS. Easily my number one monster battle from all of my favorite Godzilla movies, due to how fun and engaging the battle between these two iterations of Godzilla and Mechagodzilla are. Besides, whenever I watch a Godzilla movie, it's usually Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. I just can't get enough of that movie. And with that, we are finally done with this top 5 video. I hope you all enjoyed watching this video, and thank you for those who stuck around to the end. I hope to do more content like this in the future, so please leave some suggestions in the comments and I might consider doing them. Once again, thank you TyrantLizardDork for editing this video, and thank you Irene Roxanne for the amazing thumbnail for the video. There are a few video ideas that I do have in mind, but it's going to take time due to my final year of school. Other than that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. This is Mr. DGK, signing out.